Hello, you're listening to the 11th episode of SME Banking Club podcast series. We speak about SME banking. My name is Olena Gryniuk, and today I'm meeting Daniel Huszar, head of sales at efcom, which is a German company providing software for trade finance to banks and factoring companies. So let's talk about technology today. Hello, Daniel, and welcome to our podcast.
Hello, Olena, and thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Before we start talking about the techniques and technology here, so please tell us about yourself. What is your path to efcom, and what do you exactly do?
Thank you, Olena. It's good to be here. I have been connected to efcom and working for efcom for over 10 years now, and I actually started out translating the system into English. So okay. I know the depth of the system very well. It's a good place to start out with, and basically my job, head of sales, doesn't really encapsulate it completely, because my job is, of course, to sell and to consult clients which solutions might work for them, but also to look into future technologies or the technologies that we have right now and give impulses to product development, and to think about future applications in a way, and I think that's also why you invited me to speak here.
Yes, exactly. So let's start with the question of automation of factoring, especially for SMEs and micros. So as we see here in the CE region, not only here, that banks are mainly specialized in factoring for corporate customers, and this is mainly due to the fact that these big organizations have manual process for that product, and of course servicing SMEs is in such a way is very costly and insufficient. So to serve SMEs and especially micros, one should automate the process as much as possible. And we see also now that, at least in Polish market, where some fintechs have appeared recently, which are focused exactly on microfactoring and doing this purely online in a few minutes. So I think that it's evident that automation makes sense for that segment of customers, and we don't discuss why to automate, but rather how. So my question is how banks can or should automate, and what the exact process could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question. And first of all, I mean, if we go into the micro sector and in the SME sector, the manual processes really have the problem that we don't get as much money from each individual client than, for example, in the corporate world. And so you're absolutely right. There is really a need to automate with manual processes and versus automation. Automation makes things scalable, which is very important with the SME and micro segment, because we have a lot of customers, and it's hard if we have manual processes connected to all of them when we onboard them and when we manage them. So we need to automate, because then it's not scalable in a way. And maybe to add, even if we are dealing with corporates, right? We might not have, and it's only about liquidity, right? And nothing else in the product, like invoice discounting, or in-house factoring, as we might call it. There we don't have a big number of clients, but we have a big number of invoices, and we kind of need to automate to get them into the system and to manage the limits, to manage the risk. So we need automation. And to do this, basically, we have, let's say, two distinct technologies. So we have the front end, which is the online portal or an app, something like that. So this is the customer-facing part of the technology. And then we have a back end where you crunch all those numbers, make all those postings, track the invoices, and track your risk, for example. And maybe should I start with the front end then? What we could do there. All right. So just to outline this, I think with front end, the design is the most important thing. It's not it's not really the automation in this part, but to get the customer on board, so they want to interact with your solution, and they really want to use it, because without that fact, there is really no product to use. And to do this, we definitely need to shape it for mobile, and by this I mean also to make it really simple. Really simple to use, really easy to upload invoices or documents, and to make requests and all these kind of things. And to really give the user multiple opportunities to interact with your technology and with your product. And with the and for example, when automation comes into play, it's more about customer convenience at this point. So when I say there needs to be a multi-channel approach and multiple ways to interact with the software, it's more about, do I type this invoice in manually, or do I take a picture and then some OCR software reads out what is written on that picture and translates it into the fields. And I believe that customer convenience here plays definitely a more important role than automation even. It just needs to be easy and simple. And when we go to the back end, there's really only one thing. It needs to be flexible. It needs to be so flexible that all of your business processes and all your can be translated into parameters in the software, which are really the rules by how to automate things. Like, for example, which invoices do you even buy? Yeah, which clients do you even onboard according to several ratings? Maybe you have an external rating agency or your own rating. So those are the most important parts.
So what are the most important or crucial steps for the banks or factoring companies to do the automation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good question. So firstly, I would really urge every product manager or that conceptualizes a product to step away from the tools completely that they use at the moment, because it kind of limits in the way we think. Right? And the product kind of shapes itself after the tools we use, and it's hard to get different ideas or a different perspective. So if you're making a new product for SMEs, just let your imagination run wild, and not too wild, of course, but just to think about everything, and then we can confine it within a product. I mean, first, of course, we have to see if the business case is feasible, if it really makes sense, and if it's not too much manual work. But this would be the step one for me, to get this concept right. And then the step two would be to translate this into the technology, meaning making really the front-end tool easy to use. For example, to have this multi-channel approach that the customer can interact with you on many different levels. For example, like I mentioned, entering invoices in multiple ways, taking a picture, typing them in, and their customer convenience is king. And then for the back end, the way you automate things, the way you translate your business processes into software parameters. That's basically it. So you take some rules that you have in mind, like when to buy invoices, which customers to take, which customers to reject, how to set your limits, and you kind of think about, what's my risk appetite here? Because without risk, we cannot really do this. It's more risky, or more likely that some of these, there's going to be problems with some of these clients than with big corporates, probably, right? So we have to take some spread, we have to take some risks, and we are not getting everything insured by a credit insurance. That's also one interesting point.
Do you understand under the automation is that all the process are done by, I don't know, machines, robots without any human touch or involvement?
This is an interesting question because I think exactly no, because also not it is only dangerous to do that, but it doesn't need to be this way. So of course automation means that that things run automatically, but I believe also that, for example, when we look at risk, when we look at certain risks, that if you have hundreds of thousands of customers or hundreds of thousands of invoices, then nobody can really look at all of this anymore. And you kind of need predefined decisions, but you need to look at some of them, I believe. And you need to look at the, let's say, most likely to be a risk. And this is what, let's say, big data risk management is for. So you put it all in, and you let the technology run its course, right? You have some predefined rules, and checking your invoices, checking your customers, against patterns, against fraudulent patterns. So, for example, if you look at the invoices and you look at the invoice numbers and you detect a pattern that could be fraudulent, right? So in the end, when we apply all these parameters to our data and things that we think that is a risk, like Benford model and patterns and all these kind of things, then the risk manager will get a proposal list. Actually, he or she did not look at every invoice or at every client, but they will get the best clients according to the rules, that according to the business rules of the risk manager in the software, and then they can look at these clients, these invoices that are let's say the ones that they should check the most. So that basically automation can also mean, to your question, it can also mean that humans use their time in the most efficient way possible. The human factor was an important topic and the origin of the question, and I believe automation is all nice and well, but it should serve humans and or the users, and not vice versa. So of course it's just a tool, and to make sure that it's not a black box, I believe there are two factors that really help, because I mentioned that we translate business processes into parameters, so the software basically, when you automate it, it does exactly what you want it to do. The business rules that the bank and we as a software company implemented in the first place. So it's just let's say, it's just a process enhancer, or it basically takes the business rules and just applies them over and over and quicker. But it's not a black box. It's still what we tell the software to do. And the second thing is, which is also very important, I believe, is to be able to analyze all the data that goes in, and the measures that we take as efcom to do that is that we save everything on invoice level. So every invoice and every credit note and every item that goes in there, it stays within the database, and can be analyzed with reporting, even years later. So that is really important to shape your portfolio and to watch it over time. To do that, and even have the possibility of creating reports or dashboards later on that you might not even think of right now, because they represent future products, and that's a really important factor that you, in my opinion, that you are able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a good news that humans will stay somehow in the process.
I think so too. Yes. I firmly believe so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.